Welcome back to another day at the 2022 International Astronautical Congress in Paris. This year is no different, as thousands of experts in the space sector have convened to discuss all the latest in space exploration and technology. Stay tuned as IAF Congress TV starts right now. Hello and welcome to the third episode of IAF Congress TV. Today we will be looking into the Global Space Conference on climate change. We'll speak to leaders in the field and continue our tour of leading organizations in the sector. But first, let's head to the conference floor to hear from you, the attendees, about why diversity is crucial as a foundation before continuing to grow our presence in space.
It's very important, especially in the space field, to work together because we just have one space. One thing in space can affect everyone living in the air, so the countries should collaborate in this field.
I believe diversity would bring some connectedness with sustainable development goals. We have a different standards around the world in terms of space innovation, and this would bring more equity between them.
Diversity and inclusion is really important in space, and specific to even giving people with disabilities access to space. For example, our CEO, Eric Ingram, is a disabled person, and he is an advocate for people to get access to space.
Human spaceflight is in its infancy. And so we're at the beginning right now, and we can set the foundation for the rest of our civilization's existence. So if you talk about people of different ethnic backgrounds, different countries, different ways of thinking, different genders, different abilities, be it physical, mental, whatever, all of them have something to bring to the table. And if we're not able to make everyone join in a sustainable and equal way, then we're really handcuffing ourselves as a society. And it's just not going to be beneficial for the growth of space and space industry and just humanity as a spacefaring civilization.
Who you are, it's not the problem. It's just what you are inside you. You are just a human, and you can do what you want, even if you are a man, a woman, people with a handicap. It's not the problem.
The workforce is more diverse than ever, and the taxpayers are more diverse than ever. And for people to be able to see themselves and also see their own involvement, I think is important. We have to all go to space. It's for humanity, not just a select few.
I'm now joined by Christian Hauglie Hansen, who is the Director General of the Norwegian Space Agency. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what is the Global Space Conference on climate change and where is it taking place?
The Global Conference on Climate Change is an IAF conference. It will take place in Oslo, Norway, May next year, from May 2023 to 2025. It's actually the first of its kind with this specific topic in the IAF series of this type of specific topical conferences. So the IAF conferences are organized with this big IAC this fall, during the fall, and during the spring they have these specific topic-oriented conferences. The aim is, of course, to focus on climate change and how space can be an effective tool for this. So in fact, the slogan that we have for this conference is Space as a Toolbox for Political Action on Climate Change. We think this is very important because with all this great infrastructure we're investing in with Earth observation systems and the services that we're providing through programs such as the Copernicus and all the commercial entities that are now producing great Earth observation data, we need to tie the politicians into why we're doing this and how this can be worked in their ambition in fighting the climate change.
And what can attendees expect from the meeting?
We will have both plenary sessions, we will have technical sessions. We now have a program committee working on the technical content. We've actually been in the planning for about 2 years for this conference. It's been delayed due to COVID. So we're now full speed ahead with the program committee. We had actually the first kickoff meeting the other day here at this conference with the full IAF team, the program committee, and the Norwegian Space Agency working together. So it will be a combination of papers, technical papers on Earth observation and all related issues on policy and so forth. And there will also be plenary sessions where we'll address political decision makers. We'll invite prime ministers and people at the very highest political level in order to bridge between all the good stuff that we're doing on these programs, Earth observation, and putting things and infrastructure into space, in order to get a dialogue between the politicians and the heads of agencies and the technical people, because one of the big challenges when we talk to our politicians, and I know it's much the same in other countries, is that when they talk about space or they think about space, they think, okay, this is going to Mars, and this is all great, and we're putting a lot of investment into that too. But the day-to-day action that we can take on the investments going into this program, we want to increase the awareness of the politicians and also engaging them in the discussion that we're having. I think that is the primary takeaway from this conference.
And why is it crucial that we have meetings such as this one in order to come up with solutions for climate change?
Well, we see that there's so much discussion going on, but part of the frustration is that there's a lot of talk, and this is not of any bad will or anything, but I think that from a political level, it's really hard to get tangible actions. How can we actually treat this? As an example, in Norway, we have this program called NICFI, which is a public-private partnership where the Ministry of Climate and Environment, they are investing into commercially produced Earth observation data for supporting our foreign aid program on tropical rainforest. So this program goes into monitoring the deforestation and providing this data for local communities in order to take real actions, trying to fight this and stop tropical forest, as an example. Another example is illegal fishery, where monitoring of maritime traffic can actually be used to identify where illegal fishery is going on. So, and this is real. And we think that there are so many possibilities of these programs that we can address and discuss with the politicians and say, this is up to you. You know, we have the tools, so and the means, and we need your support, and take the discussion with the politicians to make this real.
Christian Høgli-Hansen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Human civilization is rapidly moving into the space generation. Let's take a look now at how Remred has gone from being a pioneer in systems design and integration in Hungary and Eastern Europe to being at the heart of some of the most exciting projects in space science this decade. Remred are well on their way to achieving the goal of becoming a global leader in small space systems integration.
Humanity will go to the moon, will fly to the Mars very soon in the upcoming decades. To enable humanity to have much longer spaceflight mission than we ever done before, we need a wide range of technological solutions.
We will need new type of equipments, especially equipments for astronauts like dosimetry, which we will provide for the whole world from Hungary.
We are delivering a long experience, the knowledge, how the space technology evolved, and we are adding and combining the new space age solutions.
Remred was established in 2016 as a spin-off company of Center for Energy Research Institute with a small group of engineers. Hungary has a long history of space research, started with 1980 with Bertalan Farkas our first astronaut. Right now, Hungary is focusing mainly on the research part of the space sector. With Remred, we have a vision to develop the Hungarian space industry.
Remred was founded 7 years ago with one person, and now we have more than 35. Remred and its technologies are present around the Earth, around the Moon, and even around the Mars.
We have heritage of 50 years of space dosimetry, space weather, and electrical subsystems.
We have the capabilities for small space system integration. We have engineering capabilities. We have also the capabilities for manufacturing, assembly, integrate, and verify these kind of space systems.
Our goal is to provide these equipments and our testing facilities and our integration know-how to work with the world-leading integrators of the space industry.
So we are working together with NASA, with ESA, even with JAXA on a daily basis. We are working in the Comet Interceptor mission. We are working in the Moon mission. We are also providing technologies and solutions and projects for a Mars robotic mission. And we are also providing and supplying technologies to the ISS continuously. Twitter Space Dosimetry System is one of our new generation space dosimetry systems, which is an active real-time monitor capable to monitor the space dosimetry environment and human spaceflight missions. It was operated already as a technology demonstration on the International Space Station at several times, and it will be operated as one of the first payloads on board the Lunar Gateway station together with the European Space Agency.
IDA will be the first science payload in the Lunar Gateway. In this payload, there will be 4 different dosimetry instruments. We are responsible for the interface electronics. We called it e-box to make a connection between the gateway and different dosimetry units.
Aero is expected to be launched within 3 or 4 years. We are providing the avionics system and the software solution for the so-called SDT payload, which is the Space Dosimetry Telescope, capable to measure dosimetric quantities on a round trip to the Mars and back to Earth. And that simulates exactly what would happen with a human mission to the Mars. We are providing the whole electronic system and the instrumentation as well, a miniaturized specific version of the Triton. And we are providing also the RATTEL, which is a cosmic ray measurement system to provide measurement of the cosmic ray in parallel.
The Hungarian government established a new program, which is called HUNOR, Hungary into Orbit. We are developing personal space dosimetry system. We are developing a variable dosimetry unit. Each astronaut can be monitored. In the integrated astronaut medical control system, we are working together with the Summerville University to collect and monitor the health of the astronaut. We selected several health parameters which can be monitored and send it to the Earth. We will build up a database, and this will be the base of the further developments for the telemedicine.
We have the most complex space integration and space testing facilities and capabilities in Central Europe, especially in Hungary. And currently we are just starting to think about to invest and establish our new high-tech and space technology center, what we call REMTech, which will extend our capability on a much wider scale and providing space system integration, verification, testing capabilities, even up to small satellites level.
With REMTech, Remred can achieve its vision through advancing its testing and integration facilities. We can be one of the leading stakeholders of the European space industry. Our equipment and our small systems can reach the Moon and Mars.
Space exploration is no longer just for governments and big private companies. Women and minority-owned Aegis Aerospace is bridging the gap in access to space through its SSTAS platform, Space Testing as a Service.
I think it's a wonderful time to be a part of commercialization of space. what we're going to see is an unfolding of a new industry. You don't know where it's going to lead.
It's becoming easier and easier to enter the market, and the demand is growing, not just from government customers, but from private customers as well.
And Aegis Aerospace is right in the middle of all of that.
Aegis Aerospace is a woman-owned and Hispanic-owned aerospace and defense company. We perform modeling and simulation, systems engineering and integration, cybersecurity, acquisition management, and most recently, space testing as a service.
The fact that we're privately owned and that Stephanie Murphy is such an entrepreneurial business owner gives us the flexibility to try lots of different things, and we have. That includes commercializing space testing as a service. We're the first company to do that. We have been flying MISSE missions every 6 months, and we have put almost 1,500 experiments and payloads in space in that time for organizations ranging from two-year colleges to MIT, to NASA, and many, many large and small companies.
You don't have to be a government customer anymore or a government scientist to access space science and space research. You can be a university, a private company, a startup, a small community college, an elementary school, and you can have access to space testing. And so I think that's the bridge that's really important to us, that we're helping try to cover the gap.
As a young company, small company, working with Aegis was really fantastic because they're postured well to help companies on a budget like ours actually get some answers quickly and buy down risk. Now today, as a larger company where we're over 600 people and we're in the thick of building a space station, we're excited with the opportunities to work with Aegis as a partner.
We have been a family business since day one, and the strong values that we had at home in our family translated into the business as well. We treat our employees like family, and I think those values also translate into our relationships with our customers.
Just like building any new economy, it's going to require a lot of different efforts from a lot of different individual companies to make it real. And so we're excited that we have this relationship with Aegis Aerospace to do all this together.
We've been responsible for almost 3 million hours of payload operations in space, over 100 launches, and over 600 payloads put into orbit.
One of the big things that we've been working on recently is RAC, which is one of our lunar payloads, and it's currently being prepped for delivery and will launch in the next couple of years to the moon. And that's really exciting for me personally because it's one of the first things that will be going back to the moon since Apollo, and I've gotten to be a big part of that.
The moon is a very difficult environment. It's not just the vacuum, it's not just the radiation, it's not just the cold or the heat. It's also the moon dust. It's sharp and it sticks to things and it gets in everywhere and it will ruin equipment. So before we can put people on the moon to live, we have to know how new technologies and new materials will interact with that lunar dust. They call it regolith.
We have a new challenge every day. It's fun, but it's hard, and we can't get it done if we don't all work together.
There is true teamwork, there's collaboration, and it's just a really good feeling to be part of a group of people that all have a common goal.
I think it'll be a very special moment for Aegis Aerospace when we have our first lunar payload on the lunar surface.
I am actually very new to the aerospace industry, so I am looking forward to growing with the team.
And the first time you see something that you've worked on and built, launched to space, it's like, wow, I don't know if I even believe this.
I look forward to witnessing the first woman and the person of color stepping on the moon.
I think the space industry is right on the cusp of a very exciting time. We finally landed on a formula that works. And that formula is public-private partnerships with entrepreneurs.
You need leadership that has an entrepreneurial spirit, an innovative spirit. You know, we're developing technologies and solutions that have never been thought of before, answering challenges and solving problems that have never come up before. And it's a great time to be a part of the industry, and we're looking forward to our bright future.
From advanced concepts to applied SOTA technology and bringing together AI and robotics for complex space missions, the DFKI are leading the way in innovative software technology based on methods of artificial intelligence.
The Robotics Innovation Center started in 2006 with the clear focus on two main aspects of robotics and AI, on space robotics and underwater robotics. So the main goal for the Robotics Innovation Center is to actually enable robotic systems to be competent in real-world environments. Usually, in order to cope with real-world environments, they have a very complex kinematic structure, so they have legs and arms and fingers maybe, and you need to control all these. But on top of that, we also want these robots to be able to perceive the environment, so the recognition of objects, people and so forth, and of course on the higher level to actually be able to also plan tasks and plan actions in order to be successful or to be competent in achieving their goals within this environment.
For space robotics, we are using various AI methods. So for orbital robotics, for example, we are using manipulators for in-orbit servicing or performing different tasks. One of our main goals is to achieve autonomous behavior of these systems in orbital robotics as well as for planetary exploration. That means also for driving or walking systems, we have to be able to sense our environment, we have to be able to understand our environment if possible, and for this it is very important that the systems can compete with hazards or errors, as well as human intervention is mostly not possible during these complex missions. At the Institute we have the ability to build up our own systems, meaning that we can actually build up these advanced concepts for testing the capabilities, and for this it is also important to add the required software to use all these abilities of the systems and just add the right amount of intelligence to enable them to fulfill their mission needs. We are focusing on developing systems for advanced concepts, so that means that we are building them up and also test them in relevant environments, for example as the desert in Utah.
We believe that increasing the autonomy of robotic systems is a key feature to increase the efficiency of future missions as well as to decrease their costs and risks. We exploit the potential of various locomotion types, such as wheeled rovers or legged exploration systems. We also do research on hybrid rovers that have legs and wheels in the end effector, but also wheeled legs, so that they try to combine the advantages of energy-efficient wheeled locomotion as well as highly mobile leg locomotion. We also do research on multi-robot teams for applications where a single robot is simply not sufficient. This is, for instance, for rappelling into a lunar skylight and also to explore the subsurface lava tubes.
For human-robot collaboration, it's very important that robotic systems, which is often a kind of intelligent systems, understands what the humans want the systems to do, or how can the human be supported. The goal is to ease interaction such that it is very natural for the human and robotic system. When we go in the field of collaboration, one can make use of robotic systems that are worn on the body. These are called exoskeletons. They're driven by motors. They also have intelligence. They have a very advanced control because they have to follow a human. Such systems can also be used to give information back to the human. So for example, when a robot hits a stone, such a system can make you feel that, because you can transfer forces from the robotic system to the human body.
Here at the Robotics Innovation Center, we have a large underwater test basin where we usually test our systems for subsea operations, but we can also use this basin for gravity-compensated tests of space robots and space techniques. For example, when we have the interaction between a free-floating robot and a satellite or a rigid structure, the control algorithms can be similar, and we are able to transfer some of the knowledge that we gathered to space robotics. Other research that we conduct here is the research for using underwater robots that should go to the Jupiter moon Europa and there search for life. If there is life out there, it may be on the bottom of oceans.
AI and robotics can enhance and support space travel because I think space is such a important but also such a dangerous and difficult environment for humans. So we are so fragile to go there. It takes a lot of precautions. In the future, I think we will need both. We will need these robotic explorers that can, for example, prepare sites on Moon or Mars or other celestial bodies. So for the humans to come there and to do what they can do best, come with their own cognition, with their intuition and with their emotions as well, and actually gather new insights. That's where artificial intelligence and robotics is, I think, something that is with no doubt needed for the future of space travel or space exploration.
And now for our last feature on the Australian Space Agency, let's take a look at its exciting new collaboration with NASA to go where no Aussie robot has been before.
We're about to start the Artemis generation, and for me that's incredibly exciting. If you look back at the Apollo generation and what it created in terms of technology development and spin-offs, whether it's insulation for fire, whether it's the technologies that our mobile phones rely on every day, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge that comes from exploration will always have benefits back here on Earth. To know that very shortly NASA is sending rockets to return to the moon and deep space, I think is an important moment in human history. It's going back to create a permanent, sustainable presence. And we're proud of the Australian Space Agency to be partnering with NASA on its Moon to Mars program. Australia has been a long-term partner in space, particularly deep space exploration, if you look what we've done with the Canberra Deep Space Communication Complex and the other dishes around the nation. And so Australia was proud to be one of the founding signatory for the Artemis Accord. They really are looking at putting a framework in place for a practical way to access the moon and live permanently on the moon. As part of that, we were proud to sign an MOU with NASA and launch our Moon to Mars initiative, which will see Australia develop a semi-autonomous rover that will go to the surface of the moon as soon as 2026. The Australian Space Agency leading our first mission to the moon, it shows a very significant shift in our view of ourselves as a player in the global space community. Not only are we now developing satellites that will look down at Earth and help us address some of our greatest challenges such as climate change and disaster resiliency, we can also look to the stars and know that we're working on a small vehicle as a meaningful first step in our ability to leverage science to explore our solar system. Activities in space and activities as we look to explore the moon and beyond are absolutely reliant upon robotics and autonomous systems. Fortunately, here in Australia, we've led the world in autonomously operating, whether it's mine sites or oil platforms or train depots or even ports. NASA was one of the international partners that identified really early we had unique expertise. There was really a coming together of minds that, hey, a rover mission from Australia could be a meaningful first step to demonstrate that capability. In October 2021, we signed a Space Act agreement with NASA, and this Space Act agreement ultimately is the thing that has enabled our Trailblazer rover mission. What we'll see happen is a commercial vehicle, which is under NASA's CLIPS program, will take the Aussie rover to the surface of the moon. This rover's mission is very much about that permanent presence for humanity on our closest interplanetary body. So the rover will collect lunar soil called regolith and take it to a NASA plant which will look to extract oxygen. And if we can extract oxygen on the surface of the moon, obviously as humans it's very helpful for breathing, but it also can be used as a propellant, so we don't need to carry all this liquid oxygen from Earth to the moon in order for the moon to be a leaping off place into the rest of the solar system. going to impact sort of our understanding of how the Earth was formed and how the solar system was formed. So there's a lot of intertwined planetary science in this mission, and important science that's going to be needed to understand how we develop that permanent presence on the Moon. An important thing to consider when you develop a rover for the Moon or a satellite that's orbiting the Earth, that work's done here on the planet. You know, this is creating high-tech jobs, it's creating value in the economy. They're all creating services and spin-off technologies that improve life here on Earth. This mission will serve as a catalyst for Australia's contribution to even more meaningful space exploration activities in the future. Not only have we launched our first national space program and we're developing a rover to the Moon, we're working on a plan that looks at the vision for space in Australia in the 2040s. We call that the National Plan for Space. And if you look at the prospect of other nations that have developed space technologies, what comes from having constellations of your own satellites, the ability to launch rockets from your own territory, the ability to develop rovers for interplanetary systems. Really, there's no limit to what we can imagine and what we can be motivated to achieve in space in the decades to come.
Though billions of stars exist in the universe, only the one at the center of our solar system plays a unique role for us here on Earth. But the sun also affects us in less obvious ways. Knowing how to combat these potentially damaging disruptions and understanding the solar events that cause them is crucial for scientific, social, and economic reasons.
The sun has a huge effect on our Earth environment, but also on the whole solar system. The sun is an active and magnetized star at the center of our solar system, and whatever happens on the sun can affect us in many ways. For instance, whenever we have a big eruption in the form of flares or CMEs, they have many effects on our Earth environment, but also on other planets as well. For instance, they can damage space equipment like the telecommunication satellites, and they can also affect navigation. They are a hazard for men and women in space. Also, their effect can reach us here on the ground in some extreme cases. For instance, they can cause trouble for the power grid. They also a hazard for the polar flights, where people can get big doses of particles, which is not good for their health. So we have to be very vigilant, understanding how the sun works and what is the effect on on Earth and the human in space. Parker Solar Probe is giving us a fresh and new view of how our star works. It's basically rewriting the textbooks for us. And after launching Parker Solar Probe, the amount of new data and new discoveries we made is beyond any of us could have imagined before. It's really amazing. We are learning new things about the sun that we did not even know before. The number of phenomena that we discovered is really large, and most of it we did not even know at all. And that is actually the new view that Parker Solar Probe is giving us to understand how the sun works, and that will be a great help for us to understand how to mitigate for the space weather caused by the magnetic activity on the sun.
Well, joining me now is Deganit Pajkovsky, who is the IAF President for Diversity Initiatives and Science and Academic Relations. First of all, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm going to start by asking you what sort of diversity initiatives are carrying right now at the IAF.
So we have several initiatives with the main idea behind it is to implement and give example, which I'll talk soon. But first of all, we give an award to the organizations and also projects that we sense that they show and they present in their activities and their values the excellence in 3G diversity. So this is the award that we give every year. Two awards. We also provide evaluates of our activities. We check ourselves and we make it very public and transparent about our own activities. And I also collaborate with many of my colleagues on the Bureau on different initiatives such as mentorship for young professionals. We help newcomers into the organization to understand what it's all about and help them have a smooth coming in into the organization, because making diversity really effective is something that takes an effort. So it's not just talking about it, it's implementing it in our organization.
And why is it so important to create an inclusive community for everything related to space?
So I think diversity is already known as a growth engine for corporations and also for societies. So we think space is no different in that sense. And we understand diversity for the space economy as one of the most sustainable growth engines for the whole market, expanding the market, bringing more countries, more issue areas to be involved in space, making it more younger, gender diverse. So our values for diversity is the 3G. So it's gender, generation, and geography. And because we think it's such a growth engine, we now added the plus. So we call it the 3G plus, because it's a big plus when you bring the 3G values into your own organization and into the society or the community of space enthusiasts.
And what kind of impact do you hope to see these diversity initiatives make?
Well, first of all, that eventually it will be transparent. We will not have to work so hard to make diversity such an important element in our activities. It will be embedded in our activities. So this, I think, is, but that's a vision. Okay, for the next coming years, I would like to see the Federation and the space economy at large being more diverse. I will give you one example. 25% of the workforce in space are women. I would like to see that change. We are seeing that gradually, making slow changes. I would like to see it reaching to 50% maybe in the next decade. Also, this will be a good thing. And one last thing I would say is for us to reach better numbers in the Federation in terms of young professionals, generation, the geography spread, and the gender, of course. And we are steady, slowly but steady, we are getting there.
Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm now joined by Mr. Somnath, who is the chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
What are the main focuses for the astronaut program in the ISRO?
We have currently an important program called Gaganyaan. It's a human space flight program. And the objective of the program is a demonstration of capability of India to place astronauts of Indian origin using Indian craft and also an Intel launcher to be launched from India. So the objectives are defined to that extent today as a capability demonstration. And we are currently in the process of developing the rocket to be the human rated, and also developing the craft that will take us, the human craft that will take those astronauts into space, and also training a fleet, a number of them for the time being, and finally to select them for the final mission, which is scheduled possibly by 2024.
So what is exciting you the most about the future of the ISRO?
See, ISRO has been there for the last 60 years. When we started the whole program in 1960s, we were one of the very late entrants in the space program. The big players were already there, going to moon. But at that time, we were launching small rockets. But over the last 60 years, we developed certain capability in the space sector, building our own rockets, our own satellites, and even going to Mars on our own. It's a great achievement. And more importantly, that we have been able to show that space can actually touch the lives of people through services that we provide through the space ecosystem. We have 50 plus satellites today in space, orbits serving various aspects of this sector in India. And what is exciting for me in the future is that we are ready to go to the next scale-up process. And we want to make these 50 satellites to few hundreds of satellites in every sector, in communication, earth observation, navigation and science missions, with the participation of industries in India. And we have been a national space agency so far, and we are opening up now to inviting new entrepreneurs, new startups and industries to come to space sector, not as a provider of components and vendors, but as solution providers in space sector, building their own rockets, building their own satellites and launching their own applications. And this is the change that we are trying to bring in.
If there was one thing that you wanted people to know about the ISRO, what would it be?
I will tell one word, that is inspiration. So in space sector, and all of you know that young people look at space as an area of inspiration. They always look at with starry eyes on what we people do. And in India, for this nation like us, where there is large disparity in the ability of the people to go to higher education, learning, etc., we make use of space as a domain where we have shown that it is possible for this country to demonstrate something very high in high technology domain. And this keeps our younger people get inspired to take up the STEM education, science, technology, mathematics, and then contribute to the technology infrastructure of this nation. So this is the whole point, that space has been an inspirational journey in the last many years, and every young fellow that I meet in our country is eager to come and work in space sector. And that's the great topic that we always try to narrate and tell people, yes, there is always a possibility to contribute to the nation in working in space.
Mr. Somnath, thank you very much for your time today. Well, that's it for episode 3. We really hope you enjoyed today's program. Don't forget, we will be back tomorrow for our final episode. We look forward to seeing you then.